Clarion's history, but I think I'm talking to old friends here, am I? Anybody? Yeah. No? No, not old friends. So a very brief history. I started Clarion Music Center in 1982 with my father, and we were down in the basement and selling his pianos. He was a piano maker from Hong Kong, and instruments like violins and stuff like that. And we taught music lessons to children in Chinatown. And then gradually we became a world music instrument shop, and we collected musical instruments from all over the world. And then in 1992 we moved up to this floor. So then the downstairs is still teaching, and then upstairs we expanded our inventory and we sold even more instruments from all over the world. And then I quit retail and went into poetry, which was the best decision in my life. And so I was very involved in the poetry community for about 10 years, until the people I sold the business to decided they don't want to run it anymore. So I purchased the business back, but without the retail, and make it into a performing arts center. And downstairs, we have changed it into a showgirl magic museum because of COVID, we couldn't teach anymore. So at the end of the reading, if you have not seen downstairs, I'd love to bring you down there and show you what we have over there. So before we start, I usually like to start out with reading a short poem, and then we'll make a toast to poetry. Okay, because it's May, I just happened to turn to this page, and it was a short poem that I wrote dedicated to Johanna Wedgwood, who was the host for Sacred Grounds Cafe's reading series many, many years ago. She was a druid, and druidess, and she passed away, and I wrote this on her memorial service. We had it in Golden Gate Park. It is May. We dance around the pole of colored ribbons, over and under each other, weaving as we go, to the music of the songstress and the tapping of drums, the burning sage, lavender oil, roses on the altar, photos of the old druidess. With each turn, her long hair flying, with each turn, her gray eyes smiling. Each turn she bends her knees. Each turn she dances with bears. And thank you. Let's make a toast to poetry and poetry in Chinatown. Cheers. Okay. Maybe Greg is not so intoxicated he can come over inside. Introducing the first open mic person. Thank you, Greg.
You're going to be the number one.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the May edition of Thirds Saturday Poetry in Chinatown. This afternoon, we'll have two wonderful features, John Del Bagno and Deborah Major. We have a list of people here to sign up. If anyone who hasn't signed up like to read, please let me know. She will be here. And thank all those who come to listen to poetry who are not necessarily here to read, but just to support poets. We
daytime moon, sighted at 3 o'clock. At this hour, she is a salt cracker. At midnight, she is ice cream. And this next poem is called Stolen. Not emeralds from the jewelry shop, not makeup from the drugstore, not dollars from the bank. Stolen is this hour, not from the schedule of my family, not from the time clock of my work. This hour is not noon, this hour is not prime time. This hour hides in the pre-dawn, a dark hour without a pillow, but an hour plump, an hour without shoes. It is only a small toe of the big clock, yet my arms embrace it. What will I craft of this absconded hour? Probably nothing, but if I do, it will be something mine. Maybe I'll place it on a tiara. Maybe I'll hide it in a box. And I'm not into whales, but I was challenged to write a whale poem, so I did. It's called Request to the Whale. You beast of myth, you beast of the ancestors, you smooth creature, you barnacled creature, your movement through the oceans is more gracious than the moon. The barnacles of your hide are as coarse as history. They are bumpier than time. I am unworthy to ride on your back. Please tell me simple things I might understand. Share with me one chapter of your voyage. Teach to me one vowel of your language. Thank you. Here's my poem.
Next up, we'll have Larry Beresford and Anjali. Right.
This is a poem from a few years ago called Wine, Cheese, and the Catheter Lab. You always said you wanted fine wine and cheese at your wake. At the poet's backyard wedding reception, celebrating love in late middle age, we had all that and more. Live bluegrass and a caress from the September sun. It was so sweet, your heart missed a beat. Then death appeared in the doorway, dressed in black, a glass of bubbly raised to his chapped lips. You went inside. When I followed, you were horizontal on a guest bed, half covered with presents. Soon we were off to the ER, like so many times before. This time they shipped you to the catheter lab, with a reminder that someday the story won't end so sanguinely. When that shrouded thief in the night comes for us at last, where should we be? Most people meet him in the hospital after chugging chemo until their hair and teeth fall out, soaking up steroids until they blow up like balloons, rushed to the ICU, hands tied to the bed rail, a vacuum cleaner hose jammed down their throats, ribs butterflied like lamb chops. That's not what they say they want. But the medical assembly death to sit with us on this blanket a little longer, reminiscing about other days in the sun, other perfect moments, altogether too few. Nobody's fault for that. We grasped what we could between fat, distracted fingers when we weren't worrying or arguing over nothing at all. But let no one say it wasn't enough. Thank you.
The woman. I am the face that doesn't lie. I am the woman who sighs. I think I'm reading it wrong. Sorry. Got nervous. Towards a regal future. Centuries are code word for eternity, and it is eternally that I rest my bones upon the deeds which have imprisoned me, for I will not falter when they call my name to the choices and decisions which stole my game away from me. Of that I am now free. I made the decision to walk away guilt-free from all of the oppressors of my past, that game which could never last. And I have found a tribe, yes, people who support me, who let me live the ecstasy, which is the lack of futility from not looking at the past ever again, save to distend all of the reasons I am right to say has saved my life on many occasions. For I will love hard, I will look trouble in the eye and say no thank you, and I will go on my merry way, untethered, not frayed, a little bit playful towards a future where every puzzle piece fits, and I sit merry upon my regal throne of the life which I've built, and I crack a splendid smile, for all this while I've been planning this. And this, my friend, are what women are made of.
Then after this, we'll have our first feature, John Del Bagno. This is entitled This Pretty City. Little by little, this pretty city is being riddled by disease. Gentrification has replaced AIDS as the latest urban bane, though many, it seems, despite the signs, don't know what this means, oblivious to the change. Little by little, this pretty city welcomes fancy cosmetic upgrades, but once the script gets flipped, it means many barely make it through the day. Neighborhood soul is fading fast, from the needy to the greedy to the seedy and depraved. Little by little, this pretty city, split between the have poor, the wealthy get healthy, the homeless miss the train. Little by little, this pretty city, sometimes haven, sometimes town without pity, still lovely to visit, so the tourists claim. Steady singing about what is hip, but the tower is now leaning, and the power has lost its feeling, and all that's left is the crying game. Little by little, this pretty city overrun by the loaded who've abandoned the least, the ones forced to flee or live with shame, the tech crowd, the burnt outs, the beauties and the beasts, all point their fingers, but who's gonna take the blame? Little by little, this pretty city, growing taller in overall stature, but smaller in affordable places to stay. This love affair is now a tug of war, but despite feelings that conflict, like many who leave when I'm gone, I get homesick and eager to return to the fog and gray. Little by little, this pretty city, this sleek, slick, sometimes acidic peninsula that reeks of privilege, excess, and early decay, also offers compassion, hope, and reverence with a helping hand to guide the way, with many chances to see a skyline glittering while you're sitting by the dock of the bay. Thank you. And up next, I believe, is Alice Brokoff, to be followed by Alan Harris, and then Chris.
You said the first feature was next.
Oh, I did say that, did I not? I'm sorry. But Alice, since you're up, Alice, since you're up, don't, my bad. Since you're up, put it down. So, we'll have Alice, and then we'll have John go back up.
The lights on Broadway. Broadway in Oakland is a muted shade at 7 p.m. winter evening, a day after winter solstice, when we think the lights are brighter. It is still cold. I turn onto 17th Street. The Thai and Vietnamese restaurants are open with plates of food, and the homeless man prepares to settle in the Union Building's doorway, as large as a small courtyard, a luxurious outdoor apartment. I wait for the key to arrive. If I don't have a specific key, the 7 union members amassing will have to camp out on the hallway floor. The man knows more about the doors than I do, as he explains the locks and keys and rules of the building's landlord owners, acting as a guide to the inner sanctum, away from the now rainy evening and the lights on Broadway. Cherry soup. If I picked enough cherries, my mother would make cherry soup, because in Europe, people made fruit soups, cold, sweet, or sour. I needed enough cherries to fill a pot, needed to climb up a ladder to the cherry tree branches, find one flat spot on a small rise so the pot and I didn't tumble. No one I ever knew ate cherry soup, experimenting in the kitchen like with red melodies of peasant women in a Hungarian country village kitchen home. Green and white checkered tablecloth, open sky, small steps on raked ladder, enough cherries, a little more cherries, stir. If I picked enough cherries, mother made cherry soup. common denominator. In Togo, before school, the children drum each day, finding their rhythm, and one child's favorite game is Wari, based on math. And when one does not have a carved Wari board, one can play with balls dug in the ground. Now during COVID, statistics jump out at me, big numbers, somewhat forgetting in Africa, children die of malaria every day without the numbers being counted for all.
John del Bagno is part of the long tradition of Buddhist poets whose poems are reflections and musings on how the teachings of the Buddha can be lived out no matter our circumstances. He was ordained in one of the Buddhist orders for many years and was a founder of the San Francisco Buddhist Center located in the Mission District. His first book, Hope from the Pure Land in Unnerving Times, brings together his poetry and art prints. John has recently returned to painting and is currently finishing up a body of work for his next book, which includes a series of poem paintings. John del Bagno.
Thank you so much, Greg. Can folks hear me at this distance?
Yeah.
Okay, great. The beat poet Gary Snyder, through his poetry, raised awareness not only of environmental issues, but he also spoke of his practice of Zen Buddhism. And like many people, I came to Buddhism through contact with his work and that of the other beasts. Today I'll be sharing my poetry from another branch of Buddhism, what is known as the Pure Land way of Buddhism. It is actually not just a branch, it's a big trunk, including many different schools and practitioners throughout Asia, but it is actually not all that well known in the United States. This is a path of faith in Amitābha Buddha, who vowed that if we just say his name in little batches throughout our day, he will send us blessings now, meet us in the moment of our death, and take us to his Pure Land, where one naturally and quickly becomes a Buddha. This first poem is about that moment when we first realize our mortality. It's called Awake to My Mortality. A deep awareness of my own mortality has run me over. It came out of nowhere, leaving me no different than a half-squashed lizard out on a desert highway. My front legs and my vanity still try to go along as if nothing is wrong, but I've lost my youthful invincibility. It's as useless as my tattered tail stuck to the splattered streak running down the road. My eyes roll around every which way, looking for an end that I know is coming. With the dark sky cupping the horizon, the deep truth of my aloneness glares at me. Then a coyote's call, far too close. I find myself with no way to run from the realization that I exist, but only as briefly as a dry breeze retreating before the coming rain. This poem is called Peaceful Fool. I am happy to be just a peaceful fool. I have given up on knowing grand wisdoms, and I am content with the simplest myself when the silly, selfish thoughts come fast and thick. What did I just think about that person? Where did that come from? Well, my shadow karma has deep roots within me, and I have dug as deep as I can go, trying to get them out, but still they remain. However, Amitābha can free me from what has me stuck. He can ensure that in my next life, I will not be gripped by the mayhem in my mind. For he will take me to his Pure Land, where all bad intentions wither in the refined atmosphere. For now, all I can do is say the Buddha name again and chuckle a fool's chuckle at all the thoughts that my bad karma produces in my mind. This one is called We Are Here Afloat. We have been thrown unceremoniously into the sea of human existence. Adrift now for a very long time, we are here afloat in the far reaches of what people call normal. Some of us are drenched in addiction, others tossed about by swells of bitter mental health. And sadly, so sadly, many are drowning in loss and grief. O Amitābha, send your light upon us. Let us call your name in clear tones or gravelly voices. Your name, said between coughs and cussing. Bring us some small bit of the Pure Land now, for our own bad karma has us by the throat. Dreams and aspirations have become soggy and sunk away. Despite what we have done, despite what has happened to us, still you come to save all who call your name. Appearing warm on the horizon, you cross this sea quickly and pull up alongside us in your lotus boat. The golden luster of your robes reflects from the giant white lotus petals. For those of us here adrift, you lower one of the petals into the water so we may swim to its scoop and be drawn back up onto the deck. There, the lotus hull gives off a rich scent, permeating the lush robes wrapped around us. You welcome us, Amitābha, with a joyful smile. Your light falls upon us. Our hands, our faces, all begin to bear the golden radiance that marks a member of your family. It has been a rough journey, but we are safe at last, sailing with Amitābha back to the Pure Land. And here's a poem about all those niggling little nasty self-hating thoughts we get. It's called Immutable. Amitābha gives us ground to stand on in a shifting world where nothing lasts. We bring him to mind again and again amidst all these fears of frailty in this life, our final end ever threatening. Even in downtrodden times, we can pour Amitābha into our minds and let those hurtful thoughts float away like drowned flies, their little corpses spinning and spinning away, away, away. This poem is sort of a combination of a couple of people I've known. It's called Trampled On. She was a trampled on young woman. Life had already walked hard upon her. That anxious brow told of struggle. Yet going out the door, no matter how late she might already be, she never missed making 3 quick bows to a plastic Amitābha on her little shrine. Her recitations of the Buddha name slowly polished the tiny crystals and gems she had laid out in a sliver of a moon arc. Amitābha is all I really have, she said once during a back porch break from the crowded revelries which were going on inside. And you know, I think that's enough. I agreed, so we promised to meet up with each other in the Pure Land, and she is over there now. The first thing she said she was going to do was to wade into one of the pools lined with gold dust sand, just so she could feel gold swishing between her toes. Me? I just want to fly, 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 like I have in a dream. It will be so good to catch up with her, and she can show me around the Pure Land with her toes all sparkling gold. Now, this is no eulogy, just a voicing of rejoicing that a person tumbling through life can call the Buddha name and find equilibrium in Amitābha's light. And here's a little bit of a self-revelatory poem, or another self-revelatory poem, perhaps. It's called My Image of Myself. Somewhere deep down in the gullet of my beliefs, I don't think I'm worthy of enlightenment. Despite my good works and kindnesses, my nasty ways and selfishness cast a shadow over my view of myself. To my great relief, this doesn't prevent Amitābha from loving me and accepting me exactly as I am. He cradles me gently, a baby bird fallen and found. This poem is called A Man Broken on the Wheel of Life. Back in the Dark Ages, they used to break people on the wheel. It was a form of torture, and they would sort of drop this wheel on your body to break you all the way up and down. And then the wheel of life is a Buddhist symbol about the whole process of living, dying, and being reborn. So this is a man broken on the wheel of life. He was a bare-fisted bar-room brawler, and I got to know him at his end. A curved-over husk of who he had been, his spirit hadn't faded a bit. Now, he just couldn't believe in Amitābha's golden light, but he knew his own karma was dark and thick like tar. He was gentle on the inside in a world that had always handled him harshly. Now that he is gone, I dedicate my Buddha name recitations to him today, hoping that he will be carried forward toward the Pure Land and not be trapped in further lives to be painfully lived. I want the pit bull bite of karma to let him go, to stop shaking him and let him find the peace he has yet to know. For I never saw a man struggle more just to smile. So I call to Amitābha earnestly for this man. Oh, how I hope that when I get to the Pure Land, he is waiting to greet me, to tell me of his agonies and his reprieve, and his great relief in the release from all that drove him to anger. And this will be my last poem. It's called Don't Be Sad for Me. When my karma has finally run thin my body is broken and blue. Don't be sad for me. I have a lot to celebrate, for I will be turned loose. No longer tacked to the wheel of life after life. The human habit will be abandoned, and I will be bound for the Pure Land. You see, Amitabha knows me, knows my voice, calling his name. When my breath has gone away and it won't be coming back, Amitabha will be there to meet me. Oh, to be in that moment, just amazing. His great golden radiance, brighter than the sun, yet soft as the light from a lover's bedside lamp. I will walk out these gates of old age, sickness, and death, and go with Amitabha back to his Pure Land. There I will step out onto my lotus, floating on a turquoise lake. I'll take my seat and listen to teachings directly from Amitabha, which free my heart and purify my mind. So don't be sad for me, and you have a bountiful life yourself. When you finally do arrive in the Pure Land, come find me. Look for the musicians up in the clouds floating above, and I'll be there down below, on top of one of the bridges that curve over clear canals, there where everyone dances in bliss. I suspect that's where I'll be spending a lot of my time. Thank you all for listening.
One more here for John Bagno, please. Next few people we have Ellen Harris, followed by Chris, and then Rob. So Mr. Harris, and pass this back here.
There was a time when all you had to do to get into heaven was to be a good person and believe in God. But then over time, God grew tired of being the Almighty and decided to sell heaven to Elon Musk. And Elon Musk immediately set about attempting to monetize the process of getting into heaven, subverting its original intention by making it possible for those who can afford it to simply buy their way into heaven, regardless of their level of grace and humility and devotion to God, turning what was once a paradise that inspired mortals to be decent to each other in hopes of gaining entry to it, into a place where those who had benefited from its former policy of merit-based admittance by living lives of exemplary behavior were suddenly forced to have to coexist with wealthy sociopaths and psychotics who, not too long ago, wouldn't have had a chance in hell of getting into heaven. There was immediately a mass resignation of angels of the seraphim variety, since their main purpose was to praise God. And while Musk offered them the opportunity to stay on and praise him, they just couldn't bring themselves to do it. And a mass firing by Musk of the cherubim, those adorable little four-winged chubbos who the bastard fired just to see if he could make them cry. And while there was talk among some of heaven's longtime inhabitants of leaving heaven, it remained just talk. After all, where would they go? Purgatory? By its very nature, purgatory is a temporary stop. The average Christian only spends 1,000 years in purgatory. So the only eternal alternative would be hell. But unfortunately, you can't live in hell without being subjected to a certain amount of damnation. And that was just not an option. So no one left heaven, even though Elon Musk was basically turning it into hell light. One more I'd like to lay on you. street the other day, and when I saw me, I asked me, "What am I doing here?" And I replied, "What do I mean, what am I doing here? The question is, what am I doing here?" And I took great offense at that. After all, I have as much right to be here as I do. And when I brought that up to me, I got very defensive and accused me of not only not having as much right to be here as I do, but of in fact not even being an actual me. Of in fact actually being the physical manifestation of the narcissism with which I am suffused. A narcissism so intense and assertive and deeply embedded that it has produced another me. Because that much self-involvement cannot be contained within just one of me. And I shot back, well, I can say the same thing about me. Maybe I am not the one who is the physical manifestation of intense, assertive, and deeply embedded narcissism. Maybe I am. And I said, maybe I am what? And I replied, I don't know, I've lost track of the whole thing. And we were both silent for a moment, me and I. And then finally, I said, I'm sorry. And I said, me too. And with outstretched arms, I asked, hug it out? And I responded, I love me, man.
Chris is up next, followed by Rob.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, as no Dr. Munn in this room knows, this year, 2024, is the bicentenary of the death of George Gordon Lord Byron, who died at 36 in Salonga, Greece, helping to lead what was a Greek rebellion against the Turkish despots. I'm going to begin by reading a poem from or by the Mad Lord, who is famously called Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by one of his many lovers. This is maybe one of his most famous lyrics. So, we'll go no more a-roving, so late into the night, though the heart be still as loving, and the moon be still as bright. For the sword outwears its sheath, and the soul wears out the breast, and the heart must pause to breathe, and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon, yet we'll go no more roving by the light of the moon. And this is a poem I wrote recently, a Byronic sonnet, though he did not write many sonnets, called, naturally, Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know. Oh, Byron, Byron, when thy fame subsides into a dunnish entry in Wikipedia, the ocean of your eloquence has dried up in a gully of quotes on social media. A life as hurricane, driven by ennui, with a hole at its core, the bottom of his glass, champagne sweet with vinegar, charity with arrogance, love, well, we'll let that pass. Beauty, wealth, breeding, genius, fame. You had it all to squander, my sleek lord. The first rock star, before the contemptuous name, became a stand-in for a more vicious word. That pole, you were never loved. first to know our despair and the price thereof. The singer in the cafe. She stood, a tall half-child, thin as a breath, a face as white as a cloud at noon, a profile cut from polished shell. I saw there was something strange in her eyes. She bent over her guitar's neck, carefully picked out a form of sound in which she placed her voice as far as nearness is when love is found. It was as though she had lost nothing. Polite, she did not insist. She offered free what she had found in the warm night. A thing as small as it was bright, in the forgotten light of her desire, a shy truth tempered in a dark fire. At the end, she bowed, smiling radiantly toward the rising waters of applause, then bending down after a quiet pause, from the floor raised her white cane carefully.
Thank you very much. Rob is up next. And then we will have second of our two features.
Thank you, Greg. I have written many songs of searing political protest. And you know who loves these songs? Nobody. So perhaps the only way to get people's attention is to come at them from an unexpected direction. Hear it scraping through the night. Hear it breathing a raspy fright. Hear it cackling on the breeze. Hear it crashing through the trees. The monster who eats rich people. Picking Armani out of its teeth. Wearing a Gucci scraps wreath. A polo mallet for a toothpick. Run away, quick, quick, quick. The monster who eats rich people. Trust fund babies dipped in gravy. Socialites in half-chewed bites. Upper crusters dipped in mustard. Aristocrats, no placemats. CEOs like Cheerios. Movie stars in mason jars. Nouveau riche in a kale quiche. Old money dipped in honey. Jet set on charcoal briquette. Millionaires with caramelized pears. Trophy wives with cream and chives. Tycoons with stewed prunes. Yeah. Pooping Fabergé eggs, farting poofs of Chanel, wearing Rolex earrings, the tolling of the dinner bell, the monster who eats rich people. If you're an heiress or an heir, it'll drag you to its lair, and you don't want to go there. Leave your mansion if you dare, the monster who eats rich people. Eat 'em up, eat 'em up. A snack or sup, gobble 'em up. Eat 'em up, eat 'em up. Snack or sup, gobble 'em up. Eat 'em up, snack or sup.
and undocumented, DeVore Major served as San Francisco's third poet laureate from 2002-2006. In 2022, she received the Regina Coppola International Literary Award in Italy, where her sixth book of poetry, With Open Arms, was released in a bilingual edition in 2020. A Willow Press editor's choice, her seventh book of poetry, Khalifa's Daughter, was published by Willow Press in 2020. In terms of other publications, she has 4 chapbooks of poetry, 2 novels, 2 biographies for young adults, host of short stories, essays, individual poems published in numerous anthologies and periodicals. Ms. Major is featured in a number of CDs, including Fierce Love and The Tongue is a Drum as part of Daughters of Yam, poetry and jazz performance duo. Trade Roots, a commissioned symphony with spoken word and chorus, premiered under Maestro Michael Morgan of the Oakland East Bay Symphony in 2006. In 2015, in June, she premiered her poetry play, Classic Black Voices of 19th Century African Americans in San Francisco at the San Francisco International Arts Festival. And most importantly, DeVore Major is also a baker of pies and a lover of jazz. DeVore Major, please come to the stage.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I was supposed to be here in March, but COVID got me. And so when I was not positive anymore, but still weak, I wrote a COVID poem. So since that kept me from home in March, I thought I would start out with my COVID relationships. For 4 years, COVID and I had such a nice relationship. I stayed away from it. It stayed away from me. I don't know why it decided it wanted to get to know me. There's value in long-distance relationships. I read about it, even looked at pictures of it from afar. Pictures of me and my writings are readily available in a myriad of outlets. I mean, we had years of appropriate social distancing. It was a very healthy relationship, if I do say so myself. But then it comes into my house uninvited, gives me a claws-out bear hug, and starts chewing on me as if I was a salmon swimming upstream to be sacrificed. It insisted on sleeping with me in my bed, sticking its thorny fingers into my bones and trying to play its loud, discordant music on my tendons like they were stretched lamb guts pulled taut on the upright base. Then, despite my preference for clean, dry sheets as my only bedclothes, it wanted me to wear an undersized helmet made from its prickly branches, whose tight fit turned my eyes red and made salty tears flow. So what could I do but turn my back on it, sip ginger tea without offering it one taste, savor my daughter's love-infused turkey soup laced with cayenne pepper to battle with COVID, and smack my lips as COVID got weaker and weaker, finally slinking out my front door. And now we're back to what I consider an amicable relationship. I stay away from it, and it damn well better stay away from me. So I was thinking about what I was going to read today, and I'm going to do this next selection is on Palestine. You know, it's easy to not want to pay attention to the news. It's easy to not want to hear or any more about it or anything. But I'm a mother and a grandmother. And all I can think of is the mothers, the grandmothers, and the children who don't get to avoid being bombed every day and don't have the luxury of not reading the newspaper or turning on the TV or listening to the radio. So bear with me because we should be doing something. It's American tax dollars pay for the bombs that are So we are complicit. And if we don't do something, we are even more complicit. This first one is called Land, Settlers, and Genocide, America, Australia, and Palestine. To give historical context. 1. America. And the land was covered with trees, pine to oak, maple to beech, to redwood stretching upwards for thousands of years. And the first peoples were the only ones there to harvest the land's bounty. They nursed reeds until they were strong enough to be cured and woven into basket threads. They prepared for the hunt, deer to buffalo, whale to otter to caribou, every part of each animal used and honored. They made their homes from rainforest to desert mesa, snow tundra to ocean shores, and they danced together in celebration, and they danced together in mourning. And yes, at times there was discord, disagreement, and conflict, but yet they flourished. Until the ones who called themselves settlers, the skinless ones, came from Europe, claiming destiny they manifested, calling the first peoples savage animals, less than human, and they showed no mercy in the massacres of women, of children, of elders, and of the warriors who sought to protect them. They created and taught the art of scalping, invented to prove the number of indigenous kills. And when they had cleared the land of most of the ancient trees, dammed rivers, and decimated buffalo, the genocide was close to complete, leaving only 2.9% of the population on the first peoples. 2. Australia. And the land was covered with green and brown, rainforest to eucalyptus forest, woodland to savanna, and the people gathered to share stories and nourishment. They carved masks, tattooed skin for power, and to celebrate their clan and calling, walked their dream walks, and they loved the land as she loved them, and they sang in celebration, and they sang in mourning. And yes, at times there was discord, disagreement, and conflict, but yet they flourished until the ones who called themselves settlers, the skinless ones, came from Europe. The poor, the criminal, the unwanted, shipped from England to clear the land and the land's people, claiming the right as colonizers, calling the first people savage animals, less than human, and they showed no mercy, massacring women, children, and elders, and the warriors who sought to protect them, aiming at genocide, leaving only 3.8% of the Aboriginal population to live in the smallest parts of their ancestral lands. 3. Palestine. And the land was covered with crops, olive trees, lemon and carob trees, dates and almonds, rows of wheat and barley, and the sweetest of pomegranates. And the people prayed, facing the rising sun, kneeling to the noonday heat, backs to the evening sunset. And the children played and laughed with abandon, and the people sang and danced in celebration and in mourning. And yes, at times there was discord, disagreement, and conflict, but yet they flourished until the ones who called themselves settlers, the skinless ones, came from Europe, claiming their God called them chosen, naming the land's people savage animals, less than human, and they showed no mercy because Jehovah gave them the right for over 75 years to massacre women, children, elders, and the warriors who sought to protect them, to rape, to starve, to uproot the people brown-skinned like the trees planted and nourished. And the people resisted genocide as they were forced from the land they had farmed and loved for millennia, until they found themselves confined in an open-air prison with farming as a part of life, with water that they used to swim in and drink, wash and cook, controlled and cut off by these colonizers, who without remorse exploded the bodies of children, eviscerated mothers, buried still breathing elders beneath the rubble of demolished buildings, until surviving children saw dead bodies and splattered brains in their sleepless nights, walked over a severed hand here, a flattened skull there, a still bleeding torso around the corner. And the land's people fought back, resisted genocide while they were taught of terror and terrorism from those who had learned it themselves from the Nazis they had become. But the people know that their hope lie in the world rising up and demanding that the carnage stop. And the Palestinians remember their olive trees, which after 50 years, roots buried underground beneath Israeli planted pine trees, grew out and began, one by one, to split open the pines and beckon to the Palestinians to resist and survive, so that one day they could flourish again. Incidentally, that's true that there are these old olive trees. The oldest tree believed in the world is between 8,000 and 11,000 years old, and it's an olive tree in Palestine. The trees that the Israelis, not the Jews, some Jews are on the right side of not having genocide, but the Israelis are uprooting them because of what it means to Palestinians, and some of them are 2,000 years old. Childhood remembered. Do you remember holding your small child hand up to your father's large comforting hand, amazed at its size compared to your fine thin fingers? Do you remember making fingers and palms into church and steeple and opening it to see all the people? Do you remember drawing eyes and mouths on fingers, creating silly finger people, thumb folded around pointer finger, making a mouth opening and closing? Silly games of childhood, laughter crawling down our bodies, dissolving in the air and reappearing as a tickle, giggle, finger wiggle. Remember? Not wanting to be one of the missing, or one of the unable to be identified killed, the little girl wrote on the inside of her palm, between heart and lifeline, in neat Arabic script, "If my hand survived, this is my name," before she was slain. These children do not have numbers burned into their arms, but many have written their own names, statements, and identification numbers. Pants rolled up revealed the brothers' inscribed legs, reading Ahmad Natil, Jawan Natil, Reban Natil. Did the oldest write it for his younger brothers? Or were they perhaps written by a trembling mother or a father writing while dabbing his own tears? Now they lie next to each other, softly brown saplings chopped down before they could bear fruit. The whole family, it seems, assassinated in what their killers called a cleansing, a mowing of grass, a righteous final solution. Are you old enough to remember being a child? Old enough to remember growing up? Maybe even remember becoming old? They are not. Their dead bodies reflect memories they will never have. One child has written on her arm, "No, I will not die." Does she still? I was interested in not interested, maybe consumed by genocide, and it's a human occupation that until we humans evolve or die, will continue. Prayer for the dead. We remember the millions of Africans dead on the Atlantic's bottom and ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. We remember the millions of native peoples murdered on American shores and ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. And what of the Mongols who killed over 40 million in their path, or the murdered Goths, or the butchered Canaanites? The list is long before we come to now. So we remember them too and ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. The Congolese who rode the wave of genocide from the 19th to the 20th centuries lost 10 million souls, half of their population. We remember and ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. And of course Armenia in 1915, although in truth the killing started before that year and extended afterwards. We remember them too and ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. And what of Ukraine and Nanking, the Holocaust, Pol Pot, East Timor, Rwanda, Bosnia, Serbia, Sudan, and now in Palestine, where ethnic cleansing is the goal of the day. We continue to ask forgiveness that our voices and our arms did not hold back the killings. They are all our dead. They are all our tragedies, born of humans who divide ourselves into tribes and nationalities, creating borders and walls to let it be known that the world is divided between us and them by people who refuse to recognize that inside each and every murder is our own death. So, do something. Don't do nothing. Do something. You know, do something. You cannot stand by and watch another genocide. We cannot do that. We cannot do that. Life's labor. What wonderful work we humans have been given. To be love and to give love, to teach love and be beloved. What high purpose can there be? Not to cultivate good, not to repel evil, but to be feast of and to feast on love. So I know we're going to be open readings. I thought I'd bring a couple on language. Actually, I keep all those journals, right? You know, like I'm old. So I've got like boxes of journals, so I started mining them. And this is something that I found that was still relevant. When I write. When I write, I shiver, tremble, laugh, feel my heart open and then slam shut. Get trapped in words that flow without direction or purpose, words that drown in indifference. When I write, I rediscover passion, learn myself, hide from myself, tell lies and then cross them out, replace with half-truths and then back space, delete, erase, and jump into the middle of harsh and forgiving truth that may or may not be impressed with the facts. When I write, I make love to the page, noting its hue and size, picking out a pen because of its stream and color, the shape of its nib, the way it glides across the page, how faithfully it can return my embrace. When I write, I remember some of the things I said I would never forget. When I write, I become a guerrilla, sniping at traditional forms, eschewing uniforms and flags, rules and protocols, lonely in my campaign, exploding and then seeking shelter in a kitchen of music, chopping vegetables, sauteing garlic, letting the aromas fill my nose, leaving the words like cloth-covered, yeast-laden dough in a warm place where they could rise on their own, soften and warm until I return to them, trembling and alive. And I am real excited because I have a book coming out in the fall of next year titled Word Time, and this is the title poem from it. So I'm at this workshop, and a friend of mine actually, Dwayne Baby Girl, is doing it. That's why I went, because he's my guy. And he says, "How old is your language?" He's no sage, okay? His language is like, you know, a couple few thousand years old, right? Oh, that's a good question. How old is your language? He asks, and pauses for answers that will not come to the tongue. My language of memories is buried in bone marrow, spilling out in blood, rich with copper, salt, and ancestry breath. My language of touch was inherited from the first ones who tasted green, swallowed night, and learned by stroke and reed to know each other. My language of dance was choreographed on waves and shuddering meadow grasses, and now rests in lamplit shadows. And my language of speech is words welded and wielded around the globe. A language of jazz and goobers, okra and okay, opening into the wow of Africa, while Hindi lies with Norse, and German is a bedfellow of Latin. A trade language, English, smelted by people committed to war and domination. My language bends and recreates itself, claims a lineage measured across light years of knowing, forgetting, and learning once again. I will read one last poem. I left some flyers. I'm in a show at the Presidio Theater called Soul of the City, about San Francisco, including about Chinatown. As the author of the show is a storyteller, Brenda Aoki, who is both Chinese and Japanese, so there's that in it. And a six-piece jazz band, dancers, lion dancer, besides modern dancers. You should come, it's going to be quite incredible. Brenda's quite visionary. Thank you, Claire. Much appreciated. Listening to a love supreme. For those of you who don't know, you all should know. You all know Beethoven, you should know John Coltrane. When you hear the name, one of his most favorite recordings is A Love Supreme. And it yet comforts me, listening to A Love Supreme. Coltrane calls for a love supreme, wails for us to become a chorus, wails a prayer for us to become a chorus of a love that can never become hate, a love that will never fade or sputter, die, a love that has no price tags, a love without asterisks, a love that is not inconvenient, heavy, crude, cliche, a love not found in a bubblegum love song or a steamy romance novel, a love without metaphor, because it is not like or as anything except itself, a love that at its root is pure as prayer, as song, as gift. A love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. I thank you.
One more hand before me.
This is new work. So this is called Drunk Santa Claus. Herbert and I sit on couches propped against the wall at the International Hostel in the Gaston quarter of downtown San Diego. The free breakfast had been bagels and bananas. After having binge drunk a full bottle of vodka the day before, Herbert had propped on pillows. Flyers on the hostel walls read, Discover. An old black and white Twilight Zone episode of A Drunken Santa Claus, written by Ross Serler, came on the TV screen. Nothing is milder than the meek, Mr. Serling said. He referred to a drunken Santa who had been fired for showing up drunk and late to his Santa Claus gig at a department store. Drunk Santa had finally been given the job of the real Santa Claus. He had flown off, driven by Santa's reindeer, including Rudolph. Drunk Santa had delivered presents to all. He had not asked for a single present for himself. Herbert laughed and laughed. He said to me, I wish I could be that Santa so that I could give presents to everyone. However, also like Drunk Santa, Herbert had a big heart for everyone around him. I am sure he is now giving many presents to others in heaven. I dreamt that Herbert was living in the San Bernardino Mountains. These mountains were now pastel pink and soft lavender purple color. I sensed that Herbert was in a beautiful place and also close to us, our family, as they live near Riverside, California, in these mountains. Herbert is watching over our family, staying close by in these mystical mountains. And this next piece is thank you. I always remember my beloved brother. These are memoir pieces. So basically, I went to elementary school in Mexico City, where I was born. First grade. My notebook had a tiger on it. None of the children's notebooks, erasers, pencils were ever provided for us by the Colonia de San Andres Elementary School. Our parents had to purchase everything, including the brown and white gingham uniform I wore, which had been sewn for me by my abuelita. She took me to school on my first day. Our teacher taught us our numbers by writing them on a chalkboard. The number 4 is shaped like a witch on a broomstick, she said. She made learning fun. Our teacher, wearing a navy polka dot dress, asked me once to look at the soccer field next to our school with her. She was in love with my older brother, Arnulfo, who was playing soccer on this field. Arnulfo was 19 at that time. Second grade field trip. My mother Inez, my sister Patricia, and I rode on a bus on a school trip to Del Teotihuacan. I was 6 years old and my sister Patti was 12. We climbed the pyramids of the sun. We lounged outdoors in a tropical garden. An Indian woman with long black braids and a purple rebozo served us tamarindo agua fresca with tacos made from fresh corn tortillas and black beans. Other tacos were cooked with orange squash blossoms or flores de calabaza. We peacefully and quietly watched flashes of orange as quiet fish swam in a cooling pool next to our table. And this last piece is called Flags of the World, or Desfile. We had a desfile, or parade. I wanted so much to carry the Mexican flag, which I love. I have always had a much stronger and deeper connection to the Mexican flag than the American flag. The eagle on the flag is Quetzalcoatl, a god of light. Quetzalcoatl is connected to the Aztec priesthood, to Aztec circles of elders. My teacher asked me to carry the Mongolian flag instead. I will always remember carrying the Mongolian flag on a long wooden pole. I felt honored that I was able to be close enough to see our Mexican flag in front of me all during this parade. Thank you for listening.
Howard is next, or David Bergreich. And I don't know if anyone else wants to read, so they can.
How you doing? My name is Howard. Most of my writing is dealing with the hood, the grind, the streets. The story needs to be told. Rain was light, the wind was strong, the night cold. She's on the stroll. She walks the street with no shoes on her feet. Fear in her eyes, death around the corner. The eyes don't lie. She had a deep and old soul on the stroll with nowhere to go and just 12 years old. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Very few get off and stay off. Most stay on. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Drinking, smoking, and kicking it. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Prison and jail, life of hell. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Robbing, thugging, and mean mugging. For what? behind bars for life. Get off the merry-go-round and live, live, live.
No, no, but it's very sensitive.
Okay, okay. I'll deal with it. So, I write pretty much every day, and I encourage everyone here to do the same. You know, just write something. For me, morning is best, morning pages, but just doesn't have to be great or good. Just, you know. First one is Den of Eve, written this morning. I'm a gardener, among other activities. Separate the flowers from weeds, marigold and carrot seeds, collect and store, rotating sphere, adjust to local climate here. Basil, tomatoes follow suit, bury deep to strengthen roots. Clean the quince around its base. Baudelaire sends a trace of fragrant blossoms on the breeze. Butterflies appear quite pleased. Tarragon, in dappled light, rosemary's helpmate, they don't fight. Herbal neighbors, volatile oil, sparkle blooms improve the soil. This plot, a spot, a place for each. Enhance, extend the garden's reach. This is called Deep State. A breeze ruffles the blades, the wild Douglas iris. Blooms have come and gone. Today's 6-year-old great niece accompanies 8-year-old and 4-year-old grandsons on the Berkeley Hill steam trains. I, a piper in the sand, stand on one foot, tree possessing, and exercise my free willingness to envision the orange Dreckmeister languishing in jail, hallucinating his cul-de-sac as a crowd of hard rabble. That same asshole yesterday gathered all the heads of the oil companies and pimped himself to get rid of rules and reduce, you know, the restrictions so they can make more money. So, what a wonder guy. So sweet. Okay, what else we got here? There's a haiku. Sex without love is like a pipe without water. Flow is illusion. Finally, reduction ad absurdum. This poem's meaningless, inconsequential, vapid, empty, nonplussed. Oh, how existential. Mentality exercised without direction, sliced and diced in a trice, exposed in cross-section. The nil and the null and the nether combined. Divided by zero, impossible, find out we started with nothing. And now we have less. So I'll zip up my lips and give it a rest. My pen, double-edged pen, to mark my blood pressure every day. Oh, what happened to the doubles?
Oh, these aren't the doubles.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that's okay.
Oh, is there,
I want to say something.
yes.
I wanted to see the music store. No more music store. I'm so sorry. Every day I get people asking to see the music store. I just want to say something. When Deborah said we should all do something about the genocide, I'm thinking that we should have a Poets Against Genocide marathon reading so that maybe each poet would pay $5 to read, and the money would go directly to agencies or organizations that support the Palestinian. And I think my boyfriend Dory Stein is very active in helping to spread the word about the genocide, and so I think he can help us to find the organization that's reputable, so that the money would directly go in helping the Palestinians. So I just want to thank you, Deborah, for making that statement, and I don't know what that would take to make it happen, but I think it would be a pretty powerful voice if we all do it together. So, anybody interested? Talk to me. Okay, so the other thing is that we have these little appreciation notes that I have. Actually, I don't have too many, but if you like what we're doing, please drop us a little note. Clarion right now is a non-profit organization, so we survive purely by grant. And any kind of heartfelt, good, feel-good statements from you would help us to sustain ourselves. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Oh, no, don't give it to me. I want it to be a marathon.
Yes.
Yes, because if you give it to me, I'll go and buy myself a cup of coffee.
At least you're honest.
I wouldn't want to drink that cup of coffee. It will be the shame of Clarion.
First of all, I want to also again thank Deborah for challenging us to do something. I used to listen to Joe Madison on Sirius. He passed away. He was an announcer on Urban View. And one of his challenges was always, when people would call in, is, what are you going to do about it? And so we, a lot of times we talk a lot and we complain, but to actually do something is really what's important. So thank you for the challenge. Thank you, Clara, for stepping up and offering to put something like this together, because it is important that we need to do it now. That being said, we do have a little bit more time, 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes. So if there are other poets who have not read, who would like to read, please, now is the time. If there are poets who have read and would like to read again, or have something else they'd like to share, a song, another expression, please, now is the time. And you also get an extra pen. Again. So that's that. So including features, if you'd like to. I don't know how many people we have, about 20 minutes. So we've got some people, some hands. So we'll start with Rob, and then we'll take Chris, and then Angelou, and Alice. Okay, so we need to find some folks. Right? That's okay.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. All right. I'm going to give you now one of my songs of searing political protest, so that you can understand for yourself why nobody wants to hear them. I want to know when we're going to save the whales. I want to know when we're going to close the jails. I want to know when democracy prevails. promise of humankind. I wanna know when the mountains how we find. But most of all, I wanna know, most of all, does my butt look good? Take a peek and back. Does it look like it should? Does it give you wood? Does it juice your pud? Ow, does my butt look good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. You're doing okay,
Oh, yes.
Okay, Chris is next. And Alice. Oh, Becky. Thank you for coming by.
Hi, and thank you, Deborah Storson, for this is called Two Poems About Gaza, published in Synchronized Chaos a month or so ago. One of them was actually taken from a book I published a few years ago called Chinatown, and the two poems written originally about the incursion by Israelis in Gaza a number of years ago. But I thought one actually more relevant now than ever. It's called Eyeless in Gaza, which you'll recognize as a quotation from John Milton's Samson Magnistes. Strong, blind, he stumbles over the broken land. His teeth are black. Boots crush a few innocents. What does he care? His old wounds crowd his mind. Make everyone pay. Who pitied me? No pity. Kill the children. Kill the women. Kill the men. Above all, who blinded me. Wipe them out. His fists hurl through the darkness. The YouTube videos show children left behind his boot. Sand packed in their eyes, crusting their lips like dirty glitter. The black scarred mothers, hysterical with grief. The sunlight like a scar. No pity. No pity. An eye for an eye, and the whole world has gone blind. Evil stalks them. It eats them. Then it spits them out. Pity. Everyone. All of us. Or who shall pity us? Aaron Bushnell. Martin. We will not remember what happened to him, what he did a few months ago. At attention, in battle fatigues, he stands before the concrete cube within which the ambassador sends his dispatches between capitals. The president may say what he wants. The alliance holds. Only the funds matter. Gaza never existed anyway. He is staring at you. His clothes are slick, as though he were standing in the rain. There's a movement of his hand. The ambassador looks up, startled by a strange smell, as the man outside becomes, for a moment, fire.
Another pen. And then Alice.
He always does another time.
scorned the conformed and the brainwashed norms of the other side. I have pride. I will not stand still, let others decide what my body can and will fight for, delight for, dream for. Revel in me. Revel in the newness of equality, not shame. Do not defame my honor or let squalor feed my dignity of human rights. I, the woman who sleeps at night, who comforts those with fright, who has her sights set on one more day. Do not ordain me, do not restrain me, do not claim or maim me. Not I, the woman, just I.
Alice, I don't know, is there anyone else who'd like to read again?
I'd like to say that the Middle Eastern Children's Fund and American Friends Service Committee, I think, are two good organizations. Keys. She had a key to the door once. Did she drop it when she left? Her grandmother had a key too. Grandma buried it deep in the soil. The door is missing now. At least that one is in Krakow. A brother has the key to the door in Ramallah. How long do keys last? Asked a little girl. As long as one can remember the way to go back home, her grandma said. And what if you can't go back to a home? The little girl asked. They are the keys to one's heart. Paul Robeson's voice. I am hearing the disappeared voice of Paul Robeson singing Waterboy, calls on a chain gang in the hot South. I am hearing the disappearing in America's prisons, the disappearing islands covered with lapping rising waters, heavy hurricanes in New Orleans, Paul Robeson changing the words of Old Man River, Paul Robeson for global unity, global warming getting hotter, a laborer in the hot sun in Flint, Michigan, a farm worker in Watsonville needing water in pandemic. Paul Robeson calls to a young prisoner, too young on a hot day, too hot, red flag warnings. And I have one more, kind of inspired by the last poems. To be a witch. How I would like to be a witch, if witches could do what people say they do, to fly over housetops, over the Victorians with bay windows. Were witches really midwives, helping as needed, women who came in the night and tended with potions and spells, words that cured, organic herbs that I could find on the edge of fields and meadows, the healer witch, the magician witch, why in black with a pointed hat on a broom and a cap, also black, just a caricature. Yet I know she flew, let me ride on her broom, drink her brew, sing in a circle, become a witch, a Wicca, rise out of the flames that burned me on trial, take off the chains that imprison me, inhale the smoke of her healing potions.
Kennedy will be the two features. Anyway, this is a short poem. It's entitled Mid-Year Calendar in Reverse. The calendar turns backwards as the seasons change. The world in reverse after the month of May. My mind has been regressing with April tears on my face, March clouds in my eyes while I invite a few February lines to inscribe January's poetry from a December memory or November I remember at some future time. By October, I'm already over it. Then September bends to an August on pause. And I truly believe July is usually all right, but June always seems to come what may or end too soon, just like yesterday.